Hi, and welcome to EDUCAUSE. I'm Adrienne, and this is Sam. We're going to talk to you about Bring in the New, Ditch the Normal, co-designing with students. Sam is an expert in inclusion and accessibility in education. She is D2L's accessibility lead and on inclusive design educator with more than 15 years of experience implementing accessibility solutions in education, industry, and nonprofit sectors. She is also a member of the AODA's Post-Secondary Education Standards Committee and the IDEA Selection Committee. Sam's approaches to education create a dynamic curriculum which engages and includes all students. Her dedication to each individual student's learning experience is unparalleled in any educator I've seen.
Thank you, Adrienne. That was kind of you to say. Adrienne is a student in the Master of Information program at the University of Toronto's iSchool. She has a background in cognitive science and developmental psychology. Adrienne specializes in UX design and is deeply passionate about using design as a tool for accessibility and inclusion. As a researcher, Adrienne is interested in inclusive gaming and is currently building an accessible community gaming space for disabled gamers and game developers. Of course, she loves playing games, especially Stardew Valley. What binds Adrienne and I as collaborators in this Living Lab experiment of creating an inclusive course is our common goal of promoting universal design for learning in post-secondary education. So, what are we up to? During summer, I was invited by the iSchool at the University of Toronto to offer an elective course in accessibility and inclusive design. Before joining D2L, I had taught for 5 years in OCAD University's Master of Design program in inclusive design. Therefore, I jumped at the opportunity of inspiring around 70 UX designers in the fall term to recognize the value of inclusion and to embrace it in their profession. I created the curriculum as a broad framework comprising both accessibility and inclusive design topics with possibilities for introducing specificities. My goal was to find a balance between the rigor of academia and the flexibility required for learning effectively. I had met Adrienne during summer in a class where I gave a guest lecture as an industry expert, and I felt motivated to work with her. Adrienne and I want to design a course where every student feels like they belong.
So today's agenda, we're going to first talk to you about some challenges of online learning, then some opportunities. Next, we'll talk about our process in designing the course and how we see the future of education. It will be no surprise to you when I say that pedagogy is different this year than any other. Many instructors are teaching online for the first time, and many students are discovering just how important class time is for them. While in the education world, there are new and complex challenges, this strong disruption in the sector also opens up possibilities for innovation and change. Drawing on our experience designing a course specifically for the online environment, we will share with you some of what we've learned. We will share with you some of the ways online environments challenge traditional learning. Then we will discuss opportunities that arise. Next, we will share our experience in the course co-design and advantages of this approach. And finally, we will see how innovations from digital learning transforming how we approach education in the future.
As someone who has taught for years in the classroom, I realize that teaching fully online can get very uncomfortable. Obviously, I miss the comfort of familiarity. In a traditional setting, I knew exactly what to do and how things worked. I had my own ways of deciding when I would talk in the class versus when I would have the students work on their own. The classroom was my kingdom where I reigned supreme. And I suddenly find that power equation lost and transformed. My login is no different from the login of any student. We all stand equalized by technology. And I find this a bit unnerving. It was also easy when I could see everyone and feel sure that they were with me. Now, all I can see is black boxes with names on them. Are they with me or doing something else behind that login? I can never be sure unless I learn to get over my self-doubting. Props for learning activities, mine are designed for the classroom. Suddenly, those boxes and boxes of physical props and materials cannot be used anymore. And I have to figure out how to create digital equivalents, or my class falls through. Flipped classrooms, it isn't that I'm unfamiliar with it. I love the practice because I can connect in person to discuss later. But the same practice seems different and difficult now. Looking forever for new ways to engage students over an online call consumes a lot of my energy. It was so much easier when we could all meet in person. I miss the body language clues. I miss the visual feedback. I always loved emailing, but it's hard to accept that as the primary method of communication. But wait, we are not here to list the woes. We are here to shine the light on the opportunities, aren't we, Adrian?
That's right, Sam. Despite these challenges, online learning has created opportunities for class design that are new and exciting. In a space that is novel for almost everyone, we can practice inclusive design to create a classroom that is built by and for as many learners as possible. According to the Inclusive Design Research Institute, inclusive design considers the full range of human diversity with respect to ability, language, culture, gender, age, and other forms of human difference. To do this, we must involve all of our users in the design process. Rather than trying to recreate experiences in the physical classroom and a new normal, we have an opportunity to work with students to make a class space that meets their individual learning goals. There are several ways that digital environments make this possible. First, communication online is much more fluid, particularly with the myriad of communication methods available. Students can safely give feedback through online forums, messaging channels, and class forums. In an online setting, the instructor can also work to establish a relationship with each student through direct messaging or email. When the instructor receives that feedback, it is also easier to adjust to meet students' requests. For example, if a student has a hard time hearing in the physical classroom, the instructor may speak louder, but not much else. In the digital space, the instructor can adjust their microphone volume, or the student can adjust their device volume. The instructor can also turn on closed captioning and record the lecture for the student to review on sections that they may have missed. As mentioned by Sam, another way the students can drive their own learning in a digital space is the flipped classroom format. Rather than didactic lecturing during class time, instructors can give pre-recorded material before the class and dedicate class time to discussion and active learning. In a flipped digital classroom, the instructor can use breakout rooms, polls, and interactive digital platforms to engage the class. Not only will students be more engaged, since they are active participants in class time, they have yet another opportunity to give their perspective on the class. The materials provided to the class can also be more flexible. With learning management systems, instructors can provide multiple formats of learning materials. This was true prior to classes moving online, but now alternative formats can be incorporated during class time as well. Inclusive design can seem intimidating, and serving the learning goals of every student can seem like a gargantuan task. To tackle these challenges, instructors can use their greatest asset, the students themselves. Co-designing a class with students not only results in better class experience, it also alleviates the load on the instructors. To illustrate this point, Stan will now discuss how we have worked together to co-design a new course in inclusive and accessible design at the University of Toronto.
Yes, indeed. As a proponent of inclusive education, student empowerment is my primary goal. I acknowledge the influence of Paulo Freire's critical pedagogy on my practice of teaching and learning. From the start of the course, I focused on empowering the students and encouraging them to be their own teachers. I wanted them to co-design their individual learning outcomes to suit their specific needs. And of course, I did this within the ambit of the overall learning outcomes I set for the course. I had them do the co-design within themselves in pairs as the first assignment for the course. One of my measures of success for the course would be how well the students achieve their own intended learning outcomes in a self-aware frame of mind and with a sense of agency. So the final assignment is again for the same pairs to connect and assess how well their partners achieved their intended learning outcomes. This is so important for bringing out their potential and leaving them with a feeling of accomplishment. I know I cannot achieve this alone. Having a finger on the pulse of the student body is critical. Adrian's knowledge of the students helps me immensely in finding ways to motivate and lead the students in ways they are comfortable. Co-design is the basic approach we are adopting for shaping the course. The first step to this is giving the students a feeling of ownership over the course. For this, we designed a course feedback form. Unlike the conventional way of handing this form out at the end of the course, we handed it in the first week and requested feedback from everyone throughout the term. But that's not the end of it. We responded visibly and positively to the first few suggestions we received, and we can already see the reactions from those students. We are just into the second week of the course. Having a space for communication and social engagement is so important for students to feel like they belong to a learning community. I discussed with Adrienne and learned that her peers are comfortable with Slack. And so I set up a full Slack workspace for the class. It helps me communicate one-on-one with anyone, anytime, as well as any of us to share or communicate as a group. Together with email, we have a system now where everyone feels connected and heard. With notifications set up, I make sure I respond quickly to students' messages and emails. Since asynchronous communication is the main connector and there's no personal reinforcement, receiving a prompt response is so important for students to build confidence and trust in the class. Anticipating students' needs is very important, especially in a fully online environment. Here I mean by needs, the support for fuller growth. I'm a fan of the Vygotskian concept of zone of proximal development, creating scaffolds for students' growth, both in the form of learning materials and in the form of support networks, is my constant endeavor. And this is to help them proceed on their chosen learning paths towards their desired learning goals. Helping students realize what they can accomplish on their own is very empowering and very inspiring. This could involve a trifle more effort than otherwise, but the online tools and technologies make this more easily doable. And the curriculum set for the course per se, more easily consumable and digestible. What do you say, Adrian?
Absolutely, Sam. And this also informs what the future of education can look like. Working on this course with Sam has inspired how I see the future of education. As technology develops and provides even more flexibility, students will be able to tailor education for themselves. Instructors' roles will become less didactic and more cooperative. Instructors are experts in the material to be learned, but students are the experts in their own learning. Co-design with students can start as early as registration for courses. Professors receive class lists in advance of starting the class, and therefore can reach out and learn what each student learns best and how their academic goals are organized. Then, instructors and students together can explore ways of meeting those educational needs. Of course, some students may not have discovered what their best learning techniques are, or they may not know what their learning goals are. The instructor can work with these students to learn what works best for them and hone in on where their strengths and passions lie. Inclusive design recognizes human diversity, not only across humans, but within. it is likely that a student's needs will not remain stable throughout their education, and an inclusive course design provides opportunities to adjust as the student's needs change. Co-design also provides opportunities for the instructor to learn from their students. As mentioned, students are the true experts in their own learning needs. Students may have ideas about how to conduct the class that are completely novel and innovative. Through co-design, instructors can gain vital insights to their class's needs and work with students to create exciting new ways of teaching. From a student perspective, working with the instructor to create a course has given me insight on the process and allowed me to reflect on my own learning needs. Having an active role in the class also increased my motivation to engage with the material and my feeling of engagement. Based on our classes, I am not alone on this. Students are actively participating in class, talking about the course on digital channels, and even voluntarily turning a video on. For me and my peers, inclusive design of Sam's course has helped us not only become inspired to engage with the class, but to create a learning community, which is no small feat in the digital classroom. To drive innovation and pull classes together through whatever upheaval or challenge faced, inclusive education design is one of the most powerful tools available. In the future, I hope to become an instructor myself, and I cannot imagine it doing it any other way.
I can't wait to see you as a teacher, Adrian. The future of education, as I see it too, is a more blended vision of teaching and learning. There is no us teaching and them learning. Goodbye to the sage on the stage. The teacher too has to learn a lot from the student's expertise. Let us recognize that students are the best experts in their learning, especially in this new environment. Digital learning is a new opportunity with immense potential. It opens more and more opportunities to students to contribute to their own learning and that of their peers. Creating a scaffolded but customizable curriculum is the best way to enable students to direct their own learning. And I believe together we can create an inclusive education ecosystem where we all feel like we belong.